Oahu, oh, such an amazing island. I extended my stay from 4 days to 8 days to 15 days, and I was there in March 2021. I loved it. And I wanted to share with you a conversation that I had with one of my friends the other day. She asked me,
Christine, would you recommend Agoda Oahu right now?
and to be totally honest, I said,
Yes, you absolutely should. It's such a great destination, even right now.
but there are a couple things that you should know. And so in this week's video, I'm giving you those things you should know, as well as some helpful tips so that you can be a smarter traveler while you're there. And if you're new here, whoop, whoop. I'm Christine with Where in the World is CL, and I make travel videos every week to help you get up, get out, and go travel. So if you like to travel, consider subscribing. Let's dive in. To give you some context on this first one, I used to live in San Francisco for many, many years, as well as New York City. And so living and being in a place where homelessness is a problem is not something that's new to me. But I was caught off guard with the homelessness problem in Oahu. And the reason why I want to share this one first with you is when people would come and visit me, for example, in San Francisco, I used to own a condo there, they would say, oh my gosh, I had no idea how bad the homelessness problem was. And I was like, yeah, it's really common here. And that's what I want to share with you about Oahu, is that there is a large homelessness problem there. And I encourage you to do the same thing. I just Google searched and read some articles around, is homelessness a problem in Hawaii? And it was interesting to see some of the stats that came up. I'll link some of the government and news articles below if you want to learn more. But my tip for you here, and my tip for my friend who's traveling to Oahu, is twofold. The first is just about everywhere you park your car, at hikes, at viewpoints, etc., there are always signs around locking your car because break-ins are a problem. I was solo traveling for a lot of my trip, and so that made me feel a little nervous given I was on the trails alone and that my car was unattended. But it's one of those things where I was always choosing to do these hikes or these activities during the most busy part of the day so that I would never be completely alone. The second thing is just to be aware that it's a problem. And I didn't test out to see if it was a problem. An example would be, there were some really beautiful murals at a school. It was a Saturday, so I wanted to go take some pictures of them, but the homeless camp and a lot of the tents were set up right outside. And so I just didn't really want to risk parking the car and walking around the school and that area in general. And here's another one.
I'm in Chinatown and I'd love to get my takeout order and eat it somewhere around here, but to be honest, there's so many police. There's also so many homeless people here that it's not that I feel unsafe per se because it's daytime, but it's just not the best.
To be honest, this is difficult for me to talk about, but again, my goal here is just to help you to be a smarter traveler. I definitely recommend Oahu right now, and I have tons of videos about helping you to travel there on my channel. All right, let's dive into the next one. This next one is about COVID restrictions when it comes to dining. One of the things I wish I would have known beforehand is to not just choose a restaurant and always have a reservation, but to have a backup place where you might get takeout and have it be close to the beach and have a picnic blanket with you. So here's an example.
This has happened to me a few times where I've gotten takeout and I just want to sit down somewhere and eat it, and a lot of places, even like public spaces, are blocked so that you can't sit there. At the International Marketplace, like all of the seating there is blocked off, and so I'm yet driving and just parking my car somewhere random, and I'm gonna eat in the car again.
So hot. How are you gonna get in there?
This might seem like a silly problem, but it was one that kept happening again and again because I would oftentimes pick up takeout from places and I would walk for very long periods of time around Waikiki with it because so many of the normal spaces you can sit down at are closed off. So just be ready for that. Get ready to head to the park, get ready to head to the beach, and bring your takeout there. And always make sure if you're going to a restaurant, you gotta have reservations. Ooh, you know what you don't need reservations for? The shrimp trucks on the North Shore. Oh, so delicious. Make sure you check out that video link in the description below. Ooh, and if you have other helpful tips, drop them in the comments below so that we can all help each other. This next one was a challenge with getting around. And I'll give you 3 examples here. One of my favorite ways to get around when I'm traveling to a new place is just to use Uber. And one of the things I like to do, pro tip, is pull up the Uber app and actually look real time, how much would it cost if you were to take a ride from one place to another? And so that's one way I get a gauge for what it looks like. But one of the things I realized as I arrived in Oahu is that the number of Uber drivers that are available is pretty low. And so the original price that I expected to pay for my Uber ride to Waikiki ended up being way more when the time actually came to take the Uber. So that's one I didn't really expect, and I ended up using other ways to get around, but I'll give you one more example. When I was in Waikiki, it was raining that day, bad, and I didn't want to walk to the coffee shop, and so I just wanted to look at the price. And you can see this distance is very, very small, and this is the price it cost to take an Uber just from the hotel to the coffee shop. So just be aware of that if you were planning on using Uber as your main way of getting around. And actually, my recommended way of getting around, this works really well if you're just cruising around Waikiki, is to use Beaky Bikes. It's the bike share program. I absolutely loved it. It's basically $4 a ride, but do it this way, where you buy the plan for $25 and it gives you 300 minutes to use ongoing. So whether your first ride is 10 minutes, your second ride is 30 minutes, etc. I loved using Beaky Bike as my main way of getting around, and that works really well, but only if you're staying within Waikiki. I did ride to Diamond Head, that was kind of a long uphill ride. And it also only works if it's not pouring rain outside. So the natural next question to ask, if it's not a bike and it's not Uber, then how are you gonna get around? And that's renting a car. And I have a couple tips for you here that hopefully will save you some money. My first tip for you is to look for a car rental that's not at the airport. So this was the original car rental that I was looking at with a pickup at the airport. I found that off-airport car rental places were significantly less. So this is the car rental I ended up going with. You can see I saved a ton of money here. The second tip I have for you is around parking, and especially in Waikiki, that can be a challenge, which by the way, I have a whole video on my recommendations on Waikiki in the description below, so make sure you check it out. But one thing that I didn't know until I was there is there are actually a lot of areas around Waikiki with free parking. So before you pay those high rates at your hotels, make sure you just peek around and read the signs, because a lot of areas are free. Whew, this last one I got for you, it's the boots. I'm really fortunate in that I grew up in San Diego and traveled to Hawaii a lot as a child, and my sister went to college out there, so I've spent a lot of time on the island, and I don't know how I forgot, but I forgot that bugs, in particular cockroaches, are kind of a problem. It's a funny story in hindsight, but at the time it was not that funny. But my first car rental that I had in Oahu had cockroaches in it, and it's not uncommon for that to happen. And every time I'd open the door, they would scurry around, and I'd open the door, let them settle, and then I would get in the car. Oh, so gross. But I was constantly vacuuming that rental car before I just returned it and got another one. But one thing to be aware of, whether they are in your hotel or whether they are in your car rental, cockroaches are they're just there and they're waiting for you. And you know, ants as well, really, really common. In my first Airbnb while I was there, tons and tons of ants. I would put any food that I was finished with that was trash back into the fridge and then throw it out directly into the garbage can afterwards. But just know about the cockroaches and be ready for the ants. Can I tell you one magical thing that happened in Oahu? I was flying my drone. It's a beautiful sunset. A whale is jumping in the background and there's a baby turtle running into the sea. And I was like, this place is magical. So I cannot wait for my Oahu return. If you had some fun with me in this video, choose that like button and consider subscribing. Sign up for my travel newsletter. I send out helpful tips, never spam. I miss eating spam musubi, to be honest. But I hope to see you in the next adventure. I'm here every week and I'll catch you on the flip side. Ciao.